It could be J.J. McCarthy. Eagles have a lot of ego when it comes to quarterbacks. And they may look at a kid who's got a good template from a skill set standpoint and say, we can fix him. Because something's going on at backup quarterback. Nothing they are doing is making sense. Unless you believe that Andy Dalton's the backup, and that's it, which not a lot of people believe.
Yeah, right. John, for the game tonight, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Good segment there on the awards, by the way. I want to thank everybody for being here today. A good start to our program on a football Friday, about an hour left to go here on Birds 365. And the final preseason game is this evening. As much as you might not want to talk about it, we'll talk about it a little bit. John, let's go to that game. Thanks for the super chat to everybody. Thanks for being here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Preseason game number 3, John. Have you heard anything from Sean Mannion? Our buddy in the chat, Jimbo, is asking, will he be in the booth? Will he be on the sideline? What's the update from Sean Mannion? Do you know anything yet, J-Mac?
Yeah, he talked and wouldn't give it up. So obviously he's been told not to give it up.
Nick Sirianni's already in this guy's ear.
Yeah, I don't know how that's a competitive advantage, but it is what it is. Nick doesn't like giving out information. And he's the head coach and it's his rights, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. He's more comfortable on the field. He's explained that in the past. So I think if he's in the booth, it's because he's been told to be in the booth. So that's kind of my answer to that.
Will that be a negative thing then?
Not necessarily. I mean, you could do it that way. You can see better up there. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about that part of it. I'm talking about the part of it where you believe he would have been told to be up there. Like you hired a guy.
Yeah, I think that's
offense. And
I think if he
the micromanaging, man, I don't get it.
I would not think that's a good thing. Now, obviously, nobody will admit that, but from everything he said to us, he clearly wants to be on the field. So, if he is up there, I think you could make the assumption that he's been told to be up there.
Hire a guy to do a job, let him do the job. I mean, at some point I feel as though that has to stop. But I guess from Nick's perspective, he's not going to let a coordinator, dictate the future of his career. In some ways he's going to say, if I'm going down, I'm going to be the one making the decisions on the burning ship, which I guess makes some sense too.
Yeah, I mean, you're a coordinator. You're not in charge. One of the things with Jeff Stoutland, that I think was one of the more misunderstood aspects of that whole scenario is that so many fans thought he was in charge of the running game. Like that never existed. It's not how it works. So, I mean, if you're an offensive coordinator or you're a defensive coordinator, even one with the gravitas and cachet of Vic Fangio, if you heard Vic talk before practice on Wednesday, he was asked about the roster and he's like, so the first question was, at this point, is your mind made up with the rosters? Is there still somebody that can do something in this last game? I'll answer that first and say, no, there is no chance. But this was Vic's answer. Yeah, they can. It doesn't matter if my mind's made up or not. It's Howie and Nick's mind to be made up. Like, because there's a lot of people who think Vic makes decisions on defense. He doesn't. And he admits it. There's a flow chart. And when it comes to the roster, it's Howie, Nick, and then everybody else. When it comes
You think
to
that's the right flow chart?
yeah, when it comes to coaching, it's Nick, and then everybody else. So I mean,
Some people push back on that and think that's not the right flow chart because it's one thing to bring players in, but to choose the 53 and when you're not the coach in some areas, I think could be viewed as a negative. I'm more neutral on it because it's the way it's gone in Philly and it's worked pretty well. But for example, somebody might say, you know,
well, if
if
you
it
have a
was all
shitty
GM,
GM, I understand it. They have a Hall of Fame GM. I mean, he's proven himself.
yeah, but who's done a better job at finding, at developing players? For example, use like Zach Bond. I mean, who had a bigger impact on him becoming a superstar, Vic Fangio or Howie? Now, that's an extreme example, but my point is if a coach sees something in a player or likes something in a player, versus a GM is just trying to make the roster or do what he needs to do from a business perspective, which is a part of his job. Who makes those decisions, right? How do you weight that? I think it can go both ways. I just would present that
Well,
to
that's
you as
why
an
it's
alternative.
collaborative. But yeah, he's got a different job. He's got to think about now and the future,
Right.
where the coaches are only thinking about now. That's why you wanted a good GM, to be in charge of the roster. The conventional way is GM hands off the roster to the coach. And yeah, the coaches are responsible to developing the players that they have. They're always more responsible for players like Zach Bond. Howie can't make him a better player. So they're always more responsible for that part of it. But the best way of doing it, now, you also get coaches who get success and want to be a part of the process. And that could become a problem because they don't have enough time to be part. They don't have enough time to do personnel. So that's sort of more of an ego thing. The old Parcells, if you want me to cook the dinner and let me buy the groceries. Well, you don't
Yeah,
have
right.
time to buy the groceries. You're going to send somebody out. You're going to bullshit it anyway. You don't have time. And now it's grown to the point where scouting is a 365-year job. It used to be, a seasonal thing. Now you got to be on the ground. Howie, occasionally you'll see, the famous binocular photo when he was watching Kenny Pickett in that game because it was on a Thursday night. But he's not at games. He's not at college games on Saturday for the most part because he's got a job to do. All the scouts are the ones on with the boots on the ground, and you got to trust them. But it's a very collaborative process. You got to trust everybody.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It can be tough. How much do you think? How much say do you think Vic has as compared to like, I guess Mannion would be his counterpart, but even Nick.
Well, I think he doesn't have as much say as Nick. I think it's a sliding scale, and certainly of all the assistants, I would say Vic would be number one. But that's mainly up to Howie and who he wants to listen to at a particular time. And he encourages everybody to give their input. But he made the Jalen Reagor pick was his demarcation line. The coaching staff wanted him, and he deferred to them. And he didn't want it. He wanted to take Jefferson. And he said, "You know what? If I'm going to get shit for these picks, I'm going to take these picks." And the similar thing with the roster. He's the one getting shit for it. You might as well make the decision.
You think Eli Stowers and Mekhi Lemon were all Howie?
Yeah, I mean, he approved them. And then you have Jeffrey involved as well occasionally, but only with the good picks.
Nothing like your owner right over your shoulder when you make a
only
pick. Hey, I really like this guy. Hey, man. Hey, think about this guy. Oh,
only with the good picks. But yeah. Yeah, it's a very tough job, man. Got everybody trying to grab your ear. But, and you try to gather as much information, but you got to make the decision.
All right, good stuff. John, we'll do a little state of the roster. We'll wrap up some talk on the game tonight. Let's go back to that. Tonight's actual watch list, it's probably not huge, obviously. They're not going to play many. We've already discussed that. You think McKee starts?
Yeah.
Okay, so McKee, you're thinking will play. And what would be your read? I know you started the show by saying, I'll let you guys kind of interpret. What's the John McMullen read on that?
Well, if nothing moves, and Anthony Richardson or J.J. McCarthy or somebody like that is not brought in, and even if they are brought in early, it would be to be the third quarterback. Then it would be, who do they trade? But if you're just going by this, playing this game is not a positive sign. By not playing Andy Dalton, you're signaling he's ahead.
Right. Even though you could chalk it up to age with him, right? I mean, they're not going to trot him out there for every preseason game at his age and his experience level, or no?
No.
Okay.
I mean, he's
ahead.
He's not. Now, if you want to go because there's a lot of Tanner McKee fans still out there, so they're like, well, maybe they're just making sure he doesn't get hurt before they trade him, stuff like that. This is more important because of Makai Lemon. This is more important because you want to get him involved early, and that's why that's the only reason I think Tanner McKee's going to play as well. Otherwise, they would have just given the whole game to Cole Payton. Now, here's the worst case scenario for Tanner McKee. If they just start Cole Payton and they have Tanner dressed in case of emergency, then that's a really bad sign. That's a really bad sign. But they do want to get Makai Lemon involved early and often, and Cole Payton's probably not the guy to get that done right now.
So we'll see if what it looks like tonight.